thousands of restaurants open with a dream and a loan. 18 months later, most of them are gone. Not because the food was bad. Not because the owner didn't work hard enough. Trust me, nobody works harder than a restaurant owner in year one. They fail because of math. Boring, predictable, ignorant. And I know this because I've lived inside that math myself. So today, I'm going to show you the real numbers that kill restaurants, not the Yelp reviews, not the bad location excuses everyone blames. The actual mechanism. Here's what nobody tells you before you open a restaurant. The food is the easy part. Most restaurants run on margins between 3 and 6%. Let that sink in. For every $100 that comes through the door, you might keep $3 to $6 after everything: rent, payroll, food cost, insurance, equipment, taxes. Compare that to almost any other small business. A consulting business might run 40–50% margins. A restaurant is fighting for single digits, and that's on a good day. So when I say the math kills restaurants, here's what I mean. There is no room for error. None. A restaurant operating on a 5% margin doesn't get a bad month, it gets a death sentence disguised as a bad month. I've sat down at the end of a slow Tuesday and watched 4% of my margin disappear because the walk-in cooler decided to die. That's not a story. That's a Tuesday. Let's get specific. Here's the actual sequence that kills most restaurants, and it always plays out roughly the same way. The opening burn. You open with a bang. Friends, family, grand opening hype. Sales look decent. But here's the trap. Most new owners are massively underestimating their actual break-even number because they built their budget around best-case food cost and best-case staffing, not real-world food cost and real-world staffing. I've seen owners do their math, assuming they'd run 28% food cost. Reality hits closer to 33–34% once you account for waste, overportioning before your kitchen finds its rhythm, and the fact that your first few months of ordering is never as efficient as it'll eventually be. That 5 or 6 point gap doesn't sound like much. On a restaurant doing $800,000 a year, that's $40,000 to $50,000 vanishing that was never in the plan. Stage 2, the slow bleed. The grand opening crowd fades. This is normal. Every restaurant sees a dip after the initial excitement. But this is exactly when most owners panic and make the second fatal mistake. They discount, happy hour deals, social media promo codes, kids eat free nights, all in an attempt to refill the room. Here's the problem. You're now selling more volume at a lower margin on a business that already had almost no margin to give away. I've watched owners successfully fill their restaurant back up with discounts and still go bankrupt because they were busier and losing more money than when they were quiet. Being busy is not the same as being profitable. I cannot say that sentence enough times to new owners. The cash flow trap. This is the part almost nobody explains. Restaurants get paid daily. Cash and card sales hit fast. But your bills don't work on the same clock. Payroll is bi-weekly. Rent is monthly. Your food vendor wants payment in 14 to 30 days. But your liquor vendor might want it in 7. So even a restaurant that is technically profitable on paper can run out of actual cash in the bank because the timing doesn't line up. You made the money in January, but you owe 3 different bills before that money is fully yours to spend. This is the single most common Reason: a seemingly successful restaurant suddenly closes with zero warning. It's not that the concept failed. It's that the cash flow timing finally caught up to a margin that was always too thin to survive a bad week. Stage 4. The owner stops paying themselves, then stops paying the restaurant by month 12 to 18. Here's what it actually looks like from the inside. The owner has stopped taking a paycheck months ago, telling themselves it's temporary. They're putting personal credit cards on vendor bills to keep inventory stocked. They're doing the job of 3 people because they can't afford to hire a 4th. And then one slow month, a bad weather weekend, a road closure out front, a slow January, and there's no buffer left. 18 months in, the math finally wins. So if the math is this brutal, why does anyone survive? The restaurants that make it past 18 months almost always did 3 things differently, and none of them are about the food. They assumed 33% food costs from day one, not 28. They built a cushion instead of a best-case scenario. 2. They refused to discount their way out of a slow period. Instead of cutting prices, the survivors found ways to add value, better service, a standout dish, smarter marketing that didn't involve giving away margin they didn't have. 3. And this is the one almost nobody talks about. They tracked cash flow weekly, not monthly. Not, are we profitable this quarter? A literal weekly check. What's coming in? What's going out? What's due in the next 14 days? The owners who survive treat cash flow like a vital sign, not a once-a-month afterthought. I want to be clear about something. None of this means the restaurant business is a bad business to be in. It means it's an unforgiving business, one where the margin for error is so thin that the difference between surviving and closing often comes down to decisions made in month 2, not month 18. By the time you feel the crisis, the decision that caused it already happened months earlier. That's the real math behind why 90% of restaurants don't make it past 18 months. It's not the food. It's not bad luck. It's a margin so thin that one wrong assumption in month 1 can take 18 months to fully collapse. If you found this useful, the next video breaks down the exact $200 mistake that I see kill more new restaurant owners than almost anything else, a mistake that has nothing to do with cooking and everything to do with one line on a spreadsheet most owners never look at twice. Subscribe if you want the real numbers behind the businesses you think you understand. I'll see you in the next one.